But anyway, that's pretty much all I got. So questions? That was pretty fast, huh? Okay. Yes, sir.
The government banks on Friday night, they put their money in reserve to draw interest on it.
Mm-hmm.
They take it out Monday morning and load it Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been going on ever since time begun.
Okay.
They have a prime rate.
Right.
What's prime interest? That's what you pay the bank. If you take a bank that's got $50 million and put it in there on Friday night at 3 o'clock and take it out 9 o'clock Monday morning, look how much money that is.
Yeah.
And that's one way banks make money.
Yeah.
Then they turn around and loan it to you.
Yeah.
Well, they actually loan it to themselves.
Yeah. Go ahead. Other questions? Oh, okay. Yes, sir.
On the four different theories.
Right.
Where does the idea fall among those? Not of having a currency based on metal, but actually having metal as the currency without any paper.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of to me a distinction without a big difference. I mean, one way or the other, you probably need paper of some kind, even if it's freely equivalent into gold. So I'm not carrying a big bag of gold around in my pocket, and being weighed down by that. I mean, that's
something really big if you can have a whole
yeah.
pocket full.
But I mean, I don't know. That's the theory. But yeah, I mean, certainly there are metalists who think that only gold coins should be used, and then there's others who say, yeah, we can deposit the gold coins and have a little fee or a little piece of paper that says I have that on reserve. Either way,
it seems like a combination of gold and silver would probably be the best thing.
Yeah, yeah.
That's real money.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, most of the Ron Paul people like yourself are saying that's real money. But to me, real money, you could still have a fiat money that says legal tender, just like we have now, that's readily exchangeable. It's not backed by anything, but it's still readily usable. I think we can do it without having the gold and silver, but it needs to be issued by the United States government for the benefit of the people rather than the benefit of the banks. Yes, sir.
How does it affect the United States when Bernanke sends money, say, to Egypt?
Yeah.
That money never comes back to the States. Say he sends $1 billion over there, and that money is continued to operate in their system.
Right.
How is that affected by us, or how does it affect us?
Well, I would just say, in general, if they're creating new money out of nothing, then they're creating some of this effect over time. They're creating new stuff, and it's deflating the value of the money that's already in the system that we have, and it's for the benefit of Egypt, like you said, or of European banks. Yeah. They're doing tons of this. But if you really go back, and I hate to throw these people under the bus too much, but the likes of these people and the people who own these major banks, they're not particularly, oh, I love America people. They're, I love money and I love my bank, and I don't care if it's in Europe or if it's in the United States or whatever. That's what talks for these people up here. So, for Bernanke and the people who employ Bernanke and own the Fed, I don't think they particularly care about you and us in this room about the United States of America. They care about the banks, and those banks might be in Europe or wherever.
So, looking at your graph there, eventually our money will become worthless.
Well, I mean, yeah, I have a chart, obviously, that shows, it has depreciated, certainly. Yes, sir?
That money does come back. If Russia wants to buy 100 billion cars of corn, the guy says, fine, give me 300 million American. They got to go find it, and they'll find it on the open market and pay us back in dollars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they don't do that.
We're a huge net importer
That's exactly
of goods, and so we're a huge exporter of dollars. And if I have I think I have time to get into this. I'm just going to do it anyway. Okay. Okay. Yes, sir.
Why are foreign countries using the American dollar as their currency?
Oh, that is right exactly the thing that I cut out of here from last night. I'm going to get into that right now. Okay. All right. This is the most controversial thing I'm going to say tonight, so put your antennas up. Feel free to disagree. Do your own research and whatever, okay? Let me find where this is anyway. Okay. Why did we have a war in Iraq the second time around? Okay, a few years ago. Okay, yeah, there's a lot of different ideas. A lot of people say, well, to fight terrorism, to liberate the Iraqi people, oil, whatever.
Saddam Hussein wanted to do a gold dinar.
He wanted.
And take oil off the dollar.
Bingo. I think the biggest reason that we invaded Iraq was to defend the dollar, okay? Since Bretton Woods and since, that was 1944, and since really the Nixon administration was a big one, they severed the gold standard in 1971. They also started to find ways to get people to take our dollar and to buy our debt. We opened up our trade in China, and we went to OPEC in the Nixon administration and said, I want y'all to buy our debt, and I want y'all to use our dollars in your oil transactions. So when Saudi Arabia is selling oil to India, they say we need dollars for that. Okay? So there's a huge market for our dollars, so we can inflate the currency and export dollars and import a bunch of stuff. And I call it an unholy marriage between federal debt and trade debt, okay? So we're a net importer. We import. All of our stuff now is made in China, and we export all these dollars, and then we force these people to use our dollar in their transactions so that they, and so now that's really literally our major export is dollars. So if you read November 2000, Baghdad moves to the euro. What do we do at the very beginning? This is pre-9/11. This is Paul O'Neill, came out several years later. He's the Secretary of the Treasury. He knows a little bit of something that was going on in the Bush cabinet. He says from the very beginning there was a conviction that Hussein was a bad person, needed to go. Before 9/11, mind you, they're talking at the very beginning about removing Saddam Hussein. They eventually did that, and they said, weapons of mass destruction, all this other stuff. They removed him. Iraq is back on the dollar. So when they export, they're taking the dollar. All that stuff about the euro is gone. You look at, just one more quick thing. Saudi Arabia. Why are we not rattling our saber at Saudi Arabia? I mean, isn't that where, the Taliban grew out of, and bin Laden, and on and on and on, and how bad they are to women, and all these kinds of things about Saudi Arabia that are so repressive and evil? Why don't we shake our saber at Saudi Arabia? Well, my opinion is it's because they have been 100% faithful to the dollar. Okay? So, I mean, that's my opinion of Saudi Arabia and Iraq. If you want to disagree, go for it. But, I've done, hopefully, some research that is sound, I hope. Yes, sir?
Do you know anything about, that I had heard that about a year ago or so, that Libya was looking to get off the dollar?
Yeah.
And
Well,
suddenly we bought a little bit out of Libya.
Yeah, and I think worldwide people are trying to bail on the dollar, but, my brother gives an analogy that might be right. It's like riding a tiger. You want to get off the tiger, but if you get off the tiger, you might get eaten. So they're trying to ease their way off the dollar. They're trying to just gradually get out, without causing a major shakeup in the global market. So I think that's going to come a little more.
If the dollar comes back, say 50% of what it was shut down, when it shut down, there's going to be a lot of rich people.
Yeah.
And I have several $1 million in dinars.
Oh.
I'm
Well, I better be friends with you then.
Save your Confederate
Did
money.
you have a question, Kim?
Yeah, Volcker was a disciple of M1, the total amount of dollars out.
Right.
Volcker was, he was M1, and recent theory is the price of money is a better measure of controlling the economy. What is the latest theory in what's best, since you're a chartalist?
Well, some of that probably goes to me with this funny question above my head.
Chartalist is
yeah.
the latest thing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's it's been around. I mean, we're chartalists now. That's the way we're running it. But I think there are opponents to the Fed who are chartalists, like this woman who wrote this book. I'm not a big expert on the M1, M2, M3. I know they discontinued printing what M3 is a few years ago, so we don't know how bad the inflation is.
Exactly.
But I'm not, that probably goes up there. You can probably give this speech next month and take it to like level 2 and do all that stuff.
Matt, I come right back to the dull nagging situation
Yes.
about the audit. All that's being said is nothing but smoke and mirrors unless somebody can say they earned $2, they spent $2. Oh, wait a minute, here's
Right.
$1 they earned,
Right.
but they didn't report it. So they got 20% in their pocket, or whatever, they gave it to
Right.
their friend, they gave it to Matt. If you don't audit, then all the words are nothing but
Right.
smoke and mirrors. And is that something you say that is not gonna happen?
In my opinion, it's not going to happen, and I'll just, it gets back to this slide right here. This is why it's not going to happen, okay? That's just my opinion. And, I even read it was Washington Post or Washington Times, but the people who were defending the Fed were saying, federal law prevents an audit because it was set up to be an independent agency, not subject to that kind of review by the, federal
I'm an
government.
independent agent and they audit me.
Well, you don't have this like they do, But no, I'm not super optimistic. The president of the United States next year is going to be one of those two people, and that's who funds those two people, and that's what they're going to do. So, I don't think Goldman Sachs particularly cares what their opinion is on gay marriage. They just want to continue the Federal Reserve System, So there might be differences on other things, but when it gets to the Fed and when it gets to who owns the Fed and who runs the Fed, that's going to be in uniform. So that's just my opinion.
You're a good lawyer. I don't understand the thing you're saying.
I don't know what you want to.
Bailouts, who determines the bailout? Who makes that decision?
Well, as I understand, there's some bailouts that have been, on budget and some off budget. I would prefer it be off budget because they're both going to be inflationary, but one's going to add to the debt and one's not. There was a Congress who passed it, and a couple of presidents who signed, bailouts into law, Republican and Democrat. But then there's some off-book things that I think they've done with Europe that people would frown on more than if they were just plugging it into American corporations. Ultimately, if you ask my real opinion about who makes the decision about bailouts, it's the people who run these. It's, Lloyd Blankfein and David Rockefeller and these people at the top who are running and owning this system. They're making that decision ultimately, in my opinion.
That's why Lehman Brothers was thrown out, huh?
Yeah. Well, they might have been lower on the pecking order. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to point one thing out. I don't know if everybody's followed, but actually today, the House Finance Committee voted unanimously for an audit.
Yeah, I saw that, but I'm not. That's.
Well, I'm no more
yeah.
optimistic than you are than the fact that that's never happened.
Right. Yeah.
And the other thing is, I wanted to ask you to speculate if, with regards to a fiat currency, if, say tomorrow, for example, China owns, I think, around 12 trillion of our debt.
1.2.
Yeah.
1.2 trillion?
Yeah,
Where's
I
the
think
other
it's-
16 trillion?
Yeah.
Well, the Fed owns like 4.5.
Yeah. The Fed, it's broken. I don't know exactly.
Okay, well,
There's-
so whatever
Anyway,
it is,
go
whatever
ahead.
it is they own.
It's not as much as you think.
Okay,
Yeah.
if China decides tomorrow
Yeah.
to, because you can do this with fiat currency, to sell our debt
Yeah.
for 5 cents on the dollar of oil futures to Iran.
Right.
What's to prevent them from doing that, and what's your speculation as to what would happen?
Well, my understanding is it gets back to the whole riding the tiger thing. We're the major buyer of their stuff.
Yeah.
So, do they want to really kill us off and then, cut off the buyer of all their stuff? I don't think they want to just, declare economic war on us necessarily.
I wouldn't think so either, unless they figure we're never going to get this money back, we might as well get
Yeah,
something out of it.
they might start getting antsy, and I think they're trying to ease their way out of the dollar, but they don't want to just cause a huge disruption in the force,
What they're doing, this is the quieting effect. They are buying gold and exchanging it for dollars all over the world.
Yeah.
And that they are trying to create a gold standard upon which they are the king.
Yeah.
So it's pretty smart on their part.
Yes, Brandy.
When you were talking about the medalists, you
Right.
were saying that that the problem with it is that there's inherent deflation.
Uh-huh.
And I can see your point of, like there's 6 billion people or whatever today, and next week there's going to be 7 billion
Mhm.
people, and there's supposedly the same amount of gold. But there's not. They're right. They're mining
Yeah.
gold and silver. So doesn't that increase as well?
Well, it does, but how do you get the gold to go into your system? You've got, okay, let's just real quick pretend, let's just say that we wanted to declare independence from the United States here in Hood County, and we're going to be the Republic of Hood, okay? So we're a new republic, we're Hood, and we make Don our president, this Don. And Don's our president, he says, I'm a medalist, I want to have a sound currency. Well, where does the gold come from in the first place to have the currency? Well, we don't have any gold other than people's earrings and stuff, and nobody's just going to donate that to you, Don. So you're going to have to sell goods and services that we produce here in Hood County to get the gold in the first place. And so you get the gold in the first place, but then our economy grows and grows and grows, and the gold stays the same. So we have deflation. And if you want more gold to support the original, the original equality we have between the dollar that we have in Hood and our gold, you got to get more gold. Well, how do you get more gold? You got to sell more of our goods and services to get the gold to increase the currency. Does that make sense, Don? So I think that's the answer to why there's deflation, because you would have to give away valuable goods and services to get the gold to pump up your money supply. And the chartists say, what the heck with all that? Why do that? Why not just have a fiat currency that you can expand 3% or 4% per year every year? Anyway, Gary.
A few facts I think you may have left out. With fiat currencies, every fiat currency throughout history has failed. Been collapsed.
Okay.
Right, number one.
Yes.
Right, number two, the IMF, which is the World Bank, where they want a one world government, one world currency, they're trying to push the SDR and trying to take us off of the dollar for a world currency. China and Russia and Brazil and India are trading outside of dollars with their currencies, trying to get away from the dollar. If that happens, the dollar will collapse.
Right.
It's worth 4 cents now. It'll be worth a penny maybe,
Okay.
maybe half a penny.
Well,
and we're Weimar Germany.
Okay, yeah, well, okay. Part two of that, I mean, that's kind of another debate for another day, but the Weimar Germany is discussed in this book, which I totally adore. This book kind of goes against this book, and both are great books, but they're standing out. This book is a medalist book, this is a chartalist book.
The Constitution says where our money should be gold and silver.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. And you know, if you really wanted it my way, you might have to amend the Constitution to get a pure. I mean, the Fed is not constitutional anyway.
What he's doing, he's amending the Constitution.
Yeah. Well, to have a good chartalist system and be constitutional, which I'm all for, you might have to do that. In this book, she explains that the Weimar Republic was a central bank. It was a central bank just like the Fed, and they hyperinflated it. It was not owned by Germany, it was owned by the central bankers. So it's very well researched. I recommend this book to everybody.
What was the name of that book?
It's Web of Debt by Ellen Brown. Okay. Okay. Well, this will be the last question. Yes, sir.
What is a good safe percentage to be invested in silver, gold,
well,
do you have any gold and silver?
not of my own, no. I'm just trying to store my treasure in heaven. That's